Welcome, brothers and sisters, again to another segment of Refuel with the Shepherd. I'm Elder John D. Garrett, Sr. Welcome to Shepherd Missionary Baptist Church. We do honor you today. We thank God today for another privilege and honor to be with you here. We thank God for our executive pastor, Pastor Ken Garrett. We thank God for our associate pastor, Minister Tracy Brandon. So as we get ready to go into review today, I want you to take consideration of what we talked about on yesterday. And we talked about being able to encourage yourself, not always looking for someone to always give you a word, not always looking for a word, because you should have the word of life within you. It should be abiding on the inside of you. So today, our word today, our strengthening word today, will come from the Gospel of Matthew chapter 14. And we want to look at some things today, and that because as we looked at the book of Amos chapter 3 yesterday, we looked at the first 3 verses. I talked about how God was somewhat against Israel, how God was angered by them, how God was upset with them, how they left away from his word. And he said, how can two walk together except they be agreed? And we used some illustrations on yesterday, and we talked about some things yesterday. We looked at the fact that if you're going to have faith and not believing, you're going to have belief and not have faith, but you also have to have the Word of God. So we want to share with you today. We want to look at some things in the 14th chapter of the Gospel of Matthew. Let us look at verses 28 through 30. You'll find these words here. He says, these words in verse 27, but straightway Jesus spake unto them, saying, be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid. And Peter answered him and said, Lord, if it be thou, bid me come unto thee on the water. And he said, come. And when Peter was come down out of the ship, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. But when he saw the wind boisterous, he was afraid. And beginning to sink, he cried, saying, Lord, save me. And immediately Jesus answered, and immediately Jesus stretched forth his hand and caught him and said unto him, O thou of little faith, wherefore didst thou doubt? So I want to say to you today, I want to encourage you today, I want to say these words to you today, that brothers and sisters, that no matter what situation you're in, no matter what you're going through, that God is still there. That if God has to reach down to the depths, the darkest, the deepest, the worst situations that you're in, that God can bring you out of anything if you only believe. It's up to the believer. It's up to what you have on the inside. It's up to what you have allowed yourself to retain. You have to retain the things of God. You have to retain the Word of God. Even if there is no Word in you, but you have enough faith to know that there is a God. You have enough faith to know that there is a Christ. You have enough faith to know that Christ did die. You have enough faith to know that He did come, that He is the Son of God. And you have enough belief within you on the inside to cry out unto Him out of the pureness of your heart. He will reach down into the deepest, darkest trenches that you were in. He will stretch forth his hand and he will save you out of everything. Now from that point, brothers and sisters, review word today. What are you going to do when he bring you out? What are you doing since he brought you out? What have you done while he's brought you out? Have you kept the faith? Are you keeping the faith? Are you standing firm in your faith? Are you standing fast in your liberty? I encourage you today that no matter what you're going through, know that God is always there. Mark 10:25 said that with men is impossible, with God is all things are possible. As we said on yesterday, why are we saying the reoccurring word again today? Because I'm trying to get it down in your spirit for you to know that God is not only real, but he's there if you outstretch your hand. His hand is out reaching for you. Are you reaching out to God, or are you only reaching to God when you need him? You ought to reach to God when you don't need him, because that's the most impressive time to him, is to know that you want him when you don't even need him, that you need him when you don't even want him, because God is there perpetually, and he will be a perpetual place for you if you allow him to come into your life. Peter found himself in a strange situation, and as long as his eyes was on Christ, he didn't recognize how bad and how boisterous, how turmoil, how great the storms of his life was, because he stayed focused. He kept his eyes where it did not cause him to become bitter, did not cause him to become part of the problem that was there. He was focused on what it was. The solution was Jesus. The solution was the end of the road. The solution was getting to the end of the task. He did not detour from the task and start looking at what was going on around him, allowing what was happening around him to begin to bother him, but he allowed himself to stay focused on the the mission, focus on the goal, getting to the end of the road. He didn't worry about what the road looked like. He didn't worry about what was going on around him about the road, but he was concerned about the end of his journey. What we have to do now in this particular day and time in this life that we live in now, there are all sorts of things that go on around us, but you cannot allow those things to take your mind, to take your courage, to take your faith, to cause you to begin to stumble, to cause you to put yourself in a place that you take your eyes off of Christ. Just because circumstances become mountain high does not mean they're greater than God. Paul said these words here in his letter to the church at Corinth. His second letter recorded, his third letter that was written. He said these words. He said, listen, you got to remember that the weapons of your warfare are not carnal, but they're mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. One of the greatest things that you have in your weapon of arsenal is staying focused. The focus is of your mind is the greatest weapon that you can have, because once you lose focus, now you don't know how to pray. Now you don't know what to pray for. You're unsure of how to go down in prayer. You're unsure of the way you should pray. You don't believe what you begin to pray. You don't know how to start your mode of prayer. You don't even know how to begin to praise. You don't even know whether or not worship is there. You can't tell whether or not the Spirit of God is there because you lost focus. The greatest arsenal in your weaponry that you have is staying focused first, prayer second, praise third, then God brings you into worship, and in worship God begins to deliver you out of the tumultuous situation. So let not your heart be troubled because of how the winds and the waves are beating you in your life. They may be coming in all forms and all fashions. It may be your health, it may be your finances, it may be your economical situation, it may be your children, it may be your relationship, it may be your husband, your wife, it may be your job, it may be just the mere fact that you're uncertain of what things will be like. But faith has a surety, because faith is the substance of things hoped for, it is the evidence of things not seen. So the review of the word today, brothers and sisters, is to know, stay focused in spite of what's going on. Keep your eyes on Christ, because as long as your eyes on Christ, you're going to find that you can walk on the waves and the waters of life and never sink. But the moment you take your eyes off, you begin to sink. The wind begin to beat you, the lightning begin to flash so hard around you, it causes you to become afraid. And when fear begins to grip your life, you find yourself sinking in despair. So remember, stay focused, and as long as your focus and your eyes is on Christ, you will never fail nor drown in despair. God bless you. God keep you. This has been Refuel with the Shepherd, and I'm Elder John Lee Garrett Sr. here at Shepherd Missionary Baptist Church. Join us tonight for 7 o'clock, our Bible class, Eastern Standard Time Zone, 6 o'clock Central Standard Time Zone, 7 o'clock. You can join us www.justntv.com/ShepherdNBC, or you can join us at 424-203-8075, access code 177538. Again, you can join us on the web tonight, www.justn.tv/ShepherdNBC, or you can join us by teleconference 424-203-8075, 177538, access code 177538. Press pound, and you can join us tonight. God bless you and God keep you. Stay focused, and you won't sink in despair. Keep your eyes on Christ, and He'll lift you up out of anything. No matter what you're going through, Jesus is waiting for you to reach up, and He'll pull you out. God bless you today. For the Shepherd family, we love you. This has been Refuel.